Good morning. Welcome, good morning, and welcome to Unity Spiritual Center, Spokane. What a gorgeous day, huh? Absolutely. So our welcome is, of course, to all of the faces online, as well as all the faces right here in the sanctuary. As our mission states, we are a vibrant community growing through spiritual practices and love. My name is Sally Sludge. I get to be platform assistant today. Please, at this point, take a moment to check your cell phones or double or triple check your cell phones. Make sure they are silenced, please, for the service. We appreciate that. As always, we want to begin our time together by sharing our opening affirmation. So together we affirm, there is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God the Good. And this is Unity's foundational principle. One presence, one power, and one life living through us and as each one of us. So this morning, we will be hearing from our Reverend Bonnie Barnard, and her talk is titled, Exploring the Spiritual Truth in Hansel and Gretel. And our music today is provided by Scott and Beth Rainey. Our chaplain, Steve, will be providing us with a reading and opening with a prayer. But first, our song leaders, who are led by Beth and include Michael Herzog, Michael Swain, and moi.
There was a time in my life I thought I had to do it all for myself. Didn't know the grace of God was sufficient. Didn't know the love of God was at hand. But now I can say, if you are discouraged, struggling just to make it through another day, you've got to let it go. Let it all go. And this is what you have to say. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle.
reading for this morning is from Emily Cady's book, How I Used Truth, drawing from the chapter, All Sufficiency in All Things. This divine substance, call it God, creative energy, or whatever you will, is ever abiding within us and stands ready today to manifest itself in whatever form you and I need or wish to manifest. Our desire is the cup that shapes the form of its coming, and our trust, the highest form of faith, sets the time and degree. Abundant supply by the manifestation of the Father in us from within outward is as much a legitimate outcome of the Christ life or spiritual understanding as is bodily healing. I work not for food which perishes, said the Nazarene. Cease to work with the one object such as for living or just supply. Be forever free from the law of poverty and want, as you are from the law of sin and disease. Through faith in Christ, that is, by taking the indwelling Christ or Spirit and looking up to no other source. Hold to it until it manifests itself as such. Recognize it. Reckon it. Be still and know it. Do not struggle and work and worry while you know it, but just be still. Be still and know that I'm what? Part of God? No. Know that I am God, all of God, all of good. I am life. I am health. I am love. I am supply. I am the substance of all that human souls and bodies can need or want. And now let us pray. Let's take a deep breath and release. Feel our feet flat on the floor and bring your awareness to your heart. Know that God is here around us and within each of us. The divine is source for strength, for wisdom, and is love. We often connect with the divine through our dreams, where we experience imagery and feelings which reveal our inner thoughts and concerns. We connect through our fantasies, where our experiences are often beyond reality or what we might want to be. We connect through our fairy tales, which reflect the consequences of fears and greed and jealousy, as well as strengthen the value of relationships and friendships. Let us open our hearts to the messages we hear, to connect with the divine as source of wisdom, abundance, and love. I bless this service and each one of us here or watching from afar. I bless Reverend Bonnie as she continues to reveal the meaning of our fairy tales. I bless Beth, Scott, and the other leaders for the musicians and the beautiful song and music they provide. I bless the new chaplains and all of those providing support for this service today. I bless the youth and the staff who guide them in their spiritual growth. I greet this day with gratitude and appreciation for the warmth we finally have and the activities which recognize and honor those supporting Pride Month. God's love is here and in all those who seek diversity and mutual support. Today is a good day, and so it is. Amen.
for you, and here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do. I used to think God was the sun, God was the sun, but God's so much more than the earth and the stars and all of creation. God is creator, all in all, leading us to shine its light as me, as you, so use me. Oh God, I stand for you, and here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do. Command my hands, what must they do? Oh, command my life, it's here for you. God is the love that heals all creation. God is creator, makes all things new, needing us to shine its light as me, as you, so use me. Oh God, I stand for you, and here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do. And God needs us to shine its light. God needs us to shine its light. God needs us to shine its light as me, as you, so use me. Oh God, I stand for you, and here I'll abide as I show me all that I must do. Show me all that I must do. Show me all that I must do.
Thank you, Beth, and thank you, Scott. And welcome all of you to Unity Spiritual Center Spokane, whether you're here in person today or online. I am so glad, and we are so glad to have you amongst us. And happy Pride Month, everyone. Yay. Yay. The center had a Pride booth at the festival yesterday, and it was, I hear, extraordinarily fun and exciting and playful, and there's all kinds of stuff on our Facebook page about that, so I invite you to go and to check it out. Today is a special day, a very, very special day, because we're honoring our chaplains, and our chaplains have just completed 3 months of incredibly intense training to come to a place in consciousness where they are awake and aware to the oneness and have committed to continuing to practice that divine presence inside of them in order to serve us. So it's my suggestion that every year we have a day where we honor chaplains, because they are the ecclesiastical arm of our center and do amazing work. So, yeah, yeah, yeah. So today we're going to continue our series on fairy tales, and today is Hansel and Gretel. So this is so exciting for me to take stories that tell us about human patterns and look at them from a spiritual perspective, and then come to you and share with you what my observations are, so that you can allow yourself to take that in, mull it around, add your observations, and hopefully have an expanded moment and an awareness that you maybe didn't have before the talk. And so what I want to say about each one of us is that I become more and more aware that we are more like the wave in quantum physics than we are the particle. And it's the observer that determines, as we know from the double slit experiment, that it is the observer that determines whether it is a wave or whether it is a particle that is seen. So what I've been experiencing in my meditations is the feeling tone of being a wave, and then having the consciousness particularize the thing that is being focused upon. So the wave is the flow, and then we collapse energy into form and experience that as a thing. And so the story of Hansel and Gretel is really the story about lack consciousness and prosperity. And it's a beautiful story about different aspects of ourselves, how we can act them out, how we can connect with the divine, and how they can be demonstratable. So in last week's story, we looked at the two themes of the stepmother who lived from a place of envy and jealousy and ended up dying from it. So she had a small, narrow, limited life and was pretty miserable. And then we looked at the life of Snow White, who had the experience of going through a consciousness journey and then waking up to her true and her real self at the end of the story. The Grimm's brother wrote today's fairy tale in 1812, just as they wrote Snow White, the fairy tale we looked at last week. And this fairy tale in particular, they've gone back and revised multiple times. So I found several fairy tales claiming to be the original, and so I've kind of believed them all and mushed them together. So you'll kind of have this thing, but it is really close to what was, if it isn't what was. And so the Grimms were a set of brothers, and one of them was married to a woman whose family, her ancestors, had lived through the European famine of 1315. And what happened during that time is people were so frightened and they had so little food because the temperature of the earth had changed, and so the crops hadn't been fruitful for several years. And so the people had three choices as to how they dealt with this experience of perceived lack in their world. And one of them was that they abandoned their children because it's like less mouths to feed. The other is that they engaged in cannibalism, which I won't talk about, but just know that as the second one. And then the third is that they turned to their faith in order to grow and be fulfilled. And you will see in this fairy tale all three of those options playing out, interestingly enough. So as I read this story, it's an advocation for faith. So the story begins with a family, a husband and a wife, a mom and a dad, and two children, Hansel and Gretel. So we've got the mother and the father, the masculine and the feminine. We've got the older generation of thought. We've got the thought that sees that which is as that which is. And then we have got children with imaginations, children with youth, children with not a concept of time in the way that an adult may have a concept of. So the famine comes and the mom turns to the dad and says, look, woodcutter husband, we're going to need to take the kids out into the forest and abandon them. We just can't feed them. There's only with all of us, there's 4 mouths. Without them, there's only 2. Let's bring them out into the forest. And the kids overhear it. And so Gretel starts crying, and her brother says to her, "Don't cry, for God is with us." So we see in the very setup the 2 different levels of consciousness. We have a 3rd-dimensional reality-based consciousness, and that's the consciousness that is a divided consciousness. So we have the mother that wants the kids to go away, and we have a dad who wants the kids to stay. So we have a divided consciousness. As we go on with Hansel and Gretel, they're buddies and they're integrated and they support each other. It's a different way of being in the world. The children represent then the journey into the 4th level of consciousness, which is the bridge to the 5th. And what Charles Fillmore says is unity is a teaching that takes us from the 3rd dimension of consciousness up to the 5th, and unity is the bridge that brings us there. 5th level of consciousness is the I am consciousness of Christ. So what this would look like is the 3rd dimension would say we have a pie, and the pie is this big, and we only have so many pieces. And the Christ level of consciousness would say, just bake another pie. But you can't see just bake another pie from the level of consciousness of this is all we have. This is the piece. So it's a faith journey. The dad, of course, is the masculine energy, the giving energy. The mother's the receiving energy, the feminine energy. And so it's the mother who decides to push the children out. And the question becomes, when we cut off our receiving or the flow, when we cut off the flow, what happens? And so this is where, again, 3rd level consciousness would say there's not enough, get rid of the children. Where the story is teaching us is that instead of being certain of what is, you can open to God by asking questions. So 3rd level consciousness says this is it. 4th and 5th level ask questions. So what would have happened in the story if the mom instead had said, what would God have us do right now? What would God have us do? Or what is wanting to emerge here? This doesn't feel good, this doesn't look good. What is wanting to emerge here? Or what is growing on the edges of this perceived problem? As Shirley MacLaine would say, what's out on the limbs? What's out on the limbs? And so the father just relents and says, okay, I don't want my kids to go, but wife, I will do what you say. And I just want to make a note here that in the Bible we have the story of Moses being abandoned. In this fairy tale we have the story of the kids being abandoned. And there are many fairy tales and Disney movies with children being abandoned, because what it is saying is what Jesus had said in the Bible, that you have to leave the thoughts of your mother and father in order to come and follow me. So as people go to find themselves, they find themselves outside of the family that they knew thought-wise. So this is, I said all of that, and there was a picture for you. Okay. So here's a quote from Charles Fillmore. He says, deny the lack has any place or reality in your thought or your affairs, and affirm plenty as your only appearance. Praise what you have, be it ever so little, and insist that it is constantly growing larger. And Myrtle had this experience that when she was feeling or sensing or perceiving the experience of lack, she would sit down and write God a letter. So she had correspondences to God, speaking the truth from her highest self to the highest self. So the kids over here, this scheme of dumping the kids in the forest, and Hansel looks out the window and he sees white stones. You guys remember the white stones that we wrote on in the beginning of the year? Okay, there's another analogy. He sees the white stones outside shining in the moonlight, and he says to his sister, aha, I got it. Again, go to sleep quietly, sister. God will not forsake us. He goes outside, fills his pockets full of these stones so that they can find their way home. So the next morning, Mom and Dad take him out to the middle of the forest. They cut down wood, they make a big, huge fire, and they say to Hansel and Gretel, why don't you just take a little nap here by the fire? And they get all cozy, fall asleep, and Mom and Dad will go home. So moon comes, and the moon shows itself in the sky, and the moon is a sign of change and rebirth, and in the Bible, it means God's protective care over people. So there you see God's protective care over people, and the white stone symbolizes faithfulness. So the two kids hold hands, again showing that this new consciousness isn't a separation of the masculine and feminine, but is actually joined together. They follow the stones and make it back home. So they get home in the morning, and their mother scolds them for not returning sooner. So can you say, liar, liar, pants on fire? Or can you say two-faced? And I sat with that idea of two-faced because, again, it shows division. It shows the self is not integrated with the self. It shows that half the self is going one way and half the self is going the other way, which is a horrible way to live. And so the same thing happens again. The kids hear the mom talking with the dad, and again, it comes up that we got to take the kids out and put them in the middle of the woods. And Hansel turns to his sister who's crying, and he says, Gretel, go to sleep quietly. God will help us. So again, we're seeing the three different options, and this is the option of faith. So he says to his sister, look, I've got it. God will take care of us. He goes to go get the stones, and the mom had locked the door. So he couldn't get the stones. And the next morning he goes out and he figures, I will use what? Breadcrumbs. Okay, only there's a problem with breadcrumbs. So they make it all the way back into the middle of the forest once again, and we learned last week that forest is that unconscious place within us that we go where we're uncertain, and we learn to develop faith and trust in God. So here they are back out in the forest, back in the middle, a big fire is made, they fall asleep, they wake up to the moon, and the sister's scared, and the brother turns to her and says, don't worry, I left breadcrumbs, but they're gone because the birds ate the breadcrumbs. And so what this part reminds me of is the part in the Bible that says, do you build your house on stone or do you build your house on sand? So to me, it's like, do you build your faith on the white stone, on the stone, or do you build your faith on that which is temporary and comes and goes, which would be the bread in this example? So they end up walking for 2 nights, and on the third morning, remember 3 is a biblical number. On the third morning, meaning the triune nature of God, meaning that they are protected, meaning that it's good, at the third morning at noon, and the number 12 refers to the 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 disciples. It means God's power and authority is present. So in the story, they're saying, hey, on the third day at noon. So what we know is like God is in the house or the forest. God is in the forest with them. So they are walking and they hear the sound of a beautiful bird, a white, snow white bird in the tree that is so beautiful that they have to stop and listen to this bird. And that bird takes them on a journey and flies them into a house in the woods. Now, we also know that birds are symbols of the spirit. So they're getting spiritual messaging while they're in the forest as their unconscious is learning faith and is learning trust. And they end up coming to a house, and it's made of bread, and it's made of candy, and it's made of sugar, and it's made of everything a kid could love, and they start eating the house. And they hear a voice inside that says, nibble, nibble, little mouse, who is nibbling in my house? And the children say, never mind, it's the wind. And I love that because I thought, really? But then I thought the whole fairy tale is like, really? So, so I just got a kick out of that. It's the wind. Don't pay attention to us. So the children respond, never mind. And the old woman comes out and she takes them by the hand and sits them at the kitchen table. And she feeds them a really solid, good meal. She feeds them bread, and she feeds them meat, and she feeds them vegetables, and they get a big, yummy, good, solid meal. And then she shows them a bedroom, and they go to sleep. And so I liken this witch to their mother in that, and scholars do too, interestingly enough, but for a different reason. But this witch built that house particularly to lure children in, to capture them. And so she represents greed. She represents wanting that which isn't ours. She represents grasping. She represents all of that stuff, where the mother is abandoning them and pushing them out. This because her world has become too small. And this woman is bringing them in for her own personal needs. So it's both of the women are the same energy but different sides of the coin. Do you see that there? Which is curious. So the story goes on to say the witch was like a beast. She was so beastly that she could hardly see because her eyes were so red. But she had strong animal instincts so she could smell them. And Fillmore in his work talks a lot about the beastly man, which he refers to as the adverse ego. The parts of us that are greedy, the parts of us that are cruel, the parts of us that have envy, all of the third dimensional stuff. And he juxtaposes that to the I am consciousness of Christ, which is what these children are developing in their spiritual journey. So the witch then takes Hansel with her withered up hands to a stable. She's going to just show him the property. And while he's in the stable, she puts him in a grate, which we would call like a little mini cage. She gets him caged. And then she says to his sister, for the next while, you're going to be feeding your brother to plump him up for me. Imagine that. So the sister's staying in the house and she's feeding the brother for 4 weeks, and he doesn't get any plumper. And the witch just is impatient. And so she says, okay, tomorrow's the big day, and would you go draw some water? And the sister goes and draws some water, and she's very frightened. And then the witch turns up the oven, she gets the fire going, and she says to Gretel, can you crawl in there so we can make sure that the size is right? And this is where Gretel uses her imagination, which is a quality of God, or which is a power of God, and she says, I don't know how to crawl into an oven. Could you show me? And so the witch gets on all fours, and she pushes her in the oven and slams the door, and the witch is gone. Yay. So she then goes and she gets her brother, and she tells her brother, Hansel, the witch is gone. They hug and they kiss each other, and they're so excited. And it says in the story they have nothing more to fear, so they went all throughout the witch's house, and in every single corner were chests of pearls and precious stones. So again, they took the journey from impoverished mind into plenty, or impoverished mind into abundance or prosperity. So those of you who are new to the center and aren't aware of it, Gay and Dave lead an abundance team where the journey is done together as a group so that there can be more expandedness into that field. So they start going home, and they come to a body of water they can't cross on their own. So there's a white duck. Here's another bird. Here's another symbol of the divine presence that carries them across the water to bring them home. So they return home to live out the rest of their lives with their father, because the mother and the witch died at the same time. And so scholars say that they must have been the same person. They both die at the same time. And as we see Hansel and Gretel take this treacherous journey through faith, we see how nature supports them. And the mother's answer to lack was to make her world smaller. And how many of us have done that in our lifetimes? You know, we're afraid and we make our world smaller. But faith asks that we expand the world and go to the unknown places, the territory that frightens us, that we're unaware of. And then the witch's answer was greed. And she's wanting to take that which isn't hers. As I mentioned, same coin, different sides. So the family gets to live with this prosperity. They get to live happily ever after, as they do in all of the fairy tales, because they took a journey into themselves that they hadn't yet experienced. So these are the lessons I'm taking away from today, that when experiencing the perception of lack, allow a new generation of thought to arise within you. And as Einstein would say, you can't solve a problem at the level that it's created. And the new generation of thought may have to go through a maturation process. And I would say it does have to go through a maturation process. And that's a being in the woods, being in the unknown, being in the scary, facing all of the icky, so that you can trust in that divine presence within you to be the light to show you the way. So eventually, the faith matures and demonstrations come to prove it. Then the second is the masculine and the feminine energy within each one of us is called to work together. So we see what happened when the older generation turned and had opposing views versus when the younger generation in this story worked together, held hands, walked through the woods, prayed together, called out to God, listened and saw the birds speaking to them, and followed the path that was theirs to follow. And so third, I have that nature supports us. And we all know that. All of our medicines are made out of nature, and if they're synthetic, they are replications of what nature does. So nature has always supported us. We eat food from nature. We are nature. There's a oneness and a wave experience that we can have with nature. And then prayer and God communication is always ongoing. And what each of us knows here is that we are always praying without ceasing. And it just happens to be, is our prayer a connection with God, or is our prayer a division with complaining, blaming, attacking, all of the third dimensional energies? So we're at choice there. And then lastly, what we know is that love and partnerships win. Woohoo! All right, let's meditate. And so how amazing it is that children all around the world have heard of Grimm's fairy tales. How amazing it is that in the secular world, in the spiritual realm, in our collective, there is an awareness of this thing called fairy tales. And how beautiful it is that it's a moral story that reminds us of who we are at our lowest and who we are at our highest. And so we're going to take a few minutes of silence, communing with that higher nature of ourselves. And I invite us as we do so this morning to imagine a white bird just in your heart fluttering around. And just to sit and observe your heart as you breathe in and out, and as you welcome this beautiful symbol of spiritual freedom. And I invite you to imagine white wings coming out of your back and feeling that angelic presence that exists within each one of us. And how wonderful it is that we come together again, as we do every week, to be reminded of who we are, of that inner divine presence which is love, which is support. That we come together in order to remember the Christ light, the source energy, the Buddhic field, the cosmic consciousness, whatever word we give it, that space and that place within us that is eternal, everlasting, that is our GPS system to God, that is presence itself. How wonderful it is that we come together as a community to recognize that it lives within each one of us, and to have permission to play from that place on the inside out, to show up in practice together. I give thanks for each and every one of us in this room. I give thanks for each and every one of us online. And I just celebrate the goodness and the glory of God right here and right now and always. And together we say, and so it is. Amen.
If you knew that you would die today, saw the face of God in love, would you change? Would you change? If you knew that love can't break your heart, when you're down so far you cannot fall, would you change? Would you change? How bad or good does it need to get? How many losses, how much regret? What chain reaction would cause an effect? Makes you turn around, makes you try to explain, makes you forgive and forget, makes you change, makes you change. upright, you can't be bent if it comes to blows. Are you so sure you won't be crawling? If not for the good, why risk falling? Why risk falling? If everything you think you know makes your life unbearable, would you change? Would you change? If you've broken every rule you know, and our time's come to bring you down, would you change? Would you change? If you knew that you would die today, if you saw the face of God in love, would you change? Would you change?
And Al, would you be willing to come up and bless the money with me? That would be fantastic. And this is our time of giving. In all major world religions, there are 6 spiritual practices. And let's see if I can remember them off the top of my head. We have prayer, meditation, study, service, community, and giving. So giving is one of our spiritual practices, and we give because it reminds us of how much has been given to us. So I invite you to take out your gifts, or if you give automatically through the bank, to just place your hands or your card over your heart, and together we are going to say our blessing prayer. I know that my giving blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I give and receive. I give thanks for the abundance that is mine to share.
I celebrate my abundance today by giving this gift. I show my faith as I open my heart. My world becomes a better place. Release all fear as I share gratefully. This love that I give always gives back to me. Knowing my oneness with everything else, I know all that I give to myself. Celebrate my abundance today by giving this gift. I show my faith as I open my heart. My world becomes a better place. I release all fear as I share gratefully. This love that I give always gives back to me. Knowing my oneness with everything else, I know all I give to myself. Knowing oneness with everything else, I know that all that I give to myself.
We sometimes think that we give, but it's not us. Spirit gives and gives and gives. God is truly in the multiplication business, Jesus blessed basically a meal for a family and fed 5,000 and had 12 baskets left over. And everyone was full. And so it is with these gifts. We bless them. We say, thank you, thank you, thank you. And we know that these gifts come from Spirit, come through us, and go out into the world to do God's good work. And we are grateful. And so it is.
And so it is. Wow, thank you, Al. So now is the time to meet all of those who completed the chaplain training program. But first we have 3 chaplains that are retiring that if you are here, I'd like you to come forward because we're going to give a blessing at the end to all of you. So come forward and be up here on the stage in front of the piano if you would. So we'll start with Cheryl Miller-Arndt.
Cheryl's with the kids, right?
Kids, Marlene Locke, and Theodora. Okay, so let's imagine them in our mind's eye in front of the piano. And I wanted to take just a minute to talk about the training, and then I'm going to turn it over to Al, who's going to talk about what the chaplains do here as their service at the center, and then we'll call up and award these amazing human beings who have worked with us now for the last 3 months solid. So Al is a really great co-teacher, and the two of us have had, I'll speak for us, Al, just a fantastic time, right? Indeed. So we met every single Tuesday night on Zoom, which allowed us, you guys, to have 2 other centers present with us. So we became a place where other centers could have their chaplains seated. And that is Unity North, and that is Paulsbo. So we had an online Tuesday night program, and then on once a month we met live on Saturdays for an hands-on, in-person intensive. And then yesterday we had a retreat celebrating all of us and having an initiation into this consciousness of the chaplain. So we asked of these individuals to eat, breathe, and sleep the spirit of the presence of God within them. And in this training, they kept prayer journals, and they had prayer partners, and they read book after book after book, and they were learning how to meditate and to go to hospitals and to do all aspects of chaplainry. And it was, as Jeff Hunter would say, more intense than anyone here could know unless they lived with someone going through it. And Jeff this morning said, "Can I be an honorary chaplain? Because the consciousness was in my home." So these individuals, I would call it spiritual boot camp. They went for 3 months, gave their all and their everything. And I am so grateful for who you are in the world and who you are in our center and whatever center that you're in. So thank you for your dedication, your hard work, and your willingness to see parts of yourself that needed to be seen and weren't always comfortable. So all of the inner work you did, I applaud you, and I praise you, and I love you.
Okay, if the chaplains would take come on up, I would like to really take a moment and bless Cheryl, Marlene, and Theodora. They have been an integral part of our team. In fact, Marlene has probably been there as long as I have. They have put in a lot of service. As far as what we do, well, technically, we pray with others, we hold space, we lead the meditation before the service, we go to hospitals and visit the sick, but mostly I feel like we are a mirror. When you forget who you really are, see a chaplain, and they will act as your reminder to your own magnificence. So, our new chaplains, Steve Bortfeld, Ruth Cray, K.P. Histo, Gary Howard, Diane Hunter, Julie Layden, Jim McCurdy, Stephanie Michelotti, Linda Mooring, and Murphy Sullivan.
Thank you, Al. And now together, we are going to say a blessing. So if we would rub our hands together, open our hearts, direct them to these beautiful human beings who will be of service to us. We say, and you can read, let's all do it together. We thank you for dedicating yourself to being of service to the divine within you. We celebrate the work that you have completed, the dedication that you have given, and the service that you provide. We see you, we honor you, and we thank you for who you are in consciousness. Amen. Woo! Thank you. Thank you. Woo! And please, after service, when we gather together to eat, they have name badges on that has their first name and chaplain underneath. And please go up and give them a hug and thank them.
Wow. So sacred and so beautiful, all of what goes on in this church. Thank you to Reverend Bonnie for her message. Thank you to Scott and to Beth for such beautiful music. Now, please join me as we say our unity statement together. Unity stands for peace in the presence of conflict, for love in the presence of hatred, for forgiveness in the presence of injury. Unity honors the many names for God, the many paths to God, for we know that there is only one power, one presence, and one life. So, whoever you are, and wherever you are on your own personal spiritual journey, you are very welcome here. If you are here for the first time today, we have a welcome packet for you. In this packet, one of the many good things, is a coupon for a free coffee beverage at our barista stand. So if you're brave, please raise your hand or stand so our ushers can give you a packet. Anyone here who's new for the first time? Oh, I see right. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. We encourage everyone to sign up for our email newsletter. It comes out on Wednesdays, to learn more about all the activities that are going on here, not just on Sunday, but throughout the week. You can, and classes as well, activities as well as classes. You can sign up for the e-news by scanning the QR code that you see posted here. It's also posted around the center, so you can scan it there, or you can check it out at our website on unityspokane.org. Also, we'd like to connect with you on our social media, the usual, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. Our chaplains on duty today are Diane, who's been holding the entire service in prayer, and Murphy, thank you for standing, who will be up here after the service if you would like to take advantage of praying with her, and I recommend that. If there's something that's heavy on your heart, she's a good person to talk to. If there's something you want to celebrate and tell someone, that's also very fitting, of course. So thank you, Murphy. And thanks all the chaplains for the service today. You can request prayer by filling out the request form that's in the seat pocket in front of you and putting it in the prayer box that's in the back of the sanctuary as you enter and exit. These are prayed over by our team here as well as Silent Unity for 30 days. And now, Gay Kruger-Ribble is here for news you can use.
Hi, everybody. So I wanted to reiterate again a great thank you to all of our volunteers for the Pride booth. This was a joint effort. It was Unity North and Unity South together. And we had a lot of planning went into it. It was super fun. Anyone who was a volunteer, would you please stand, please, to be acknowledged? Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Also, and how many people were actually at Pride yesterday? All right. Well, many of you were at our booth. I created a video. I've updated the video with new pictures, so that is on our Facebook page. Please go see that. And if you do see it, would you please acknowledge or say something on Facebook so I know that you're actually looking at it. Thank you. Also, today is new member orientation. And Linda, where are you? Linda Tweedy? Would you stand, please, so people can see you? So this is Linda Tweedy, and if you would like, you can join her in the library after service, and she will have a new member orientation for you. This is just to learn a little bit more about who we are, what we stand for, and what we have to offer, and see if it's something that fits for you. And that's news you can use.
Thank you, Gay. So, it says in my script that the youth have arrived. So let's welcome them by singing Walking in the Light. Here they come. Are they coming? All right, so for the kids who are here, we could say. One more group? Well, Scott? The stage manager has said, this is it for now. So let's rub our hands together and say our children's blessing to all of them. Be the love you are. Sing the song you hear. Share your joy of life with people far and near. And the same for us. Be the love we are. Sing the song we hear. Share our joy of life with people far and near. So now will all the children and youth please go to the people that you came with? And we do have new ones coming in. Oh, well, it happens. Now is the time for us all to stand and say our prayer for protection and then sing the peace song. So join us. Whoops, I get to say that. Together, the light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And that's the fruit